to the Parenting Roundabout podcast for the week of May 16th, 2022. I'm Nicole Erdix, and I'm here with Catherine Halecko.
Hello.
And Terry Morrow.
Hello.
Every week we chat about the things parents are talking about, complaining about, and obsessing about right now. This week we're complaining about Senior Skip Day and obsessing about readily available parenting help. We also take a couple of breaks for an entertainment discussion and a recommendation roundup. Today we are talking about working parent shame. And I'm sure this is not an unfamiliar topic. If you are a woman and a parent and someone who works either in the house or out of the house. So I just recently came across this article, and it was on bbc.com, and it was titled "The Parental Shame That Haunts Working Parents." And it kind of just goes on, obviously addresses the obvious. There's a lot to juggle. There's a lot of family pressures, and that, and it really didn't. It didn't really specify women. It kind of referred to working parents, saying that they often feel inadequate, and they're not doing what they need to be doing at home, and then things like it's just this. Basically literally a juggling act, because you're in survival mode between school, between home and between your work and between your social life and your family life. It's like, you don't want to, drop a ball because everything's going to crash down. Right.
Yeah.
So the article goes into quite a bit of detail, about how there's this parental identity threat, sorry. Yeah.
What about dog shame, says Missy. I shame you for not getting me food right this minute.
Right.
I'm sorry.
This is what makes our podcast so personal and charming.
This is so unique, right?
Just
I'm
like your
deal
home.
with her. See, and juggling the family pets. That's
Absolutely.
Another thing that we have to do.
Yes.
I'm trying to work and I'm juggling the family pet.
Yeah.
Not literally, but you know what I mean. So anyway, I guess my thought is that has anyone ever, have you felt as though anybody has ever looked at your role as a parent and either said something or thought of it or looked at it, or you felt that they were looking at it in a negative way? So if you were a working parent or working mom and had a family, did you ever get that sense of like feeling that, it was being looked at negatively? That was so complicated.
My own child continues to complain that I did not send him to preschool.
Oh.
And this is because he went to daycare, because I didn't have time for him to go to preschool for like 2 hours, 3 days a week. Like, that is not helpful. And of course, at daycare, they did everything they do at preschool. And they did it,
of course,
for more hours a day.
Mm-hmm.
But he felt that he was denied the academic benefits that he should have received by going to preschool. And
That's a long reach for shame, I think.
He still talks about it.
He still talks about it, though. He's 17.
Well, see, if you hadn't been working, though, you wouldn't have sent him to preschool anyway. You would have kept him home and done all sorts of delightful enrichment activities together.
I'm sure if I wasn't working, I would have sent him to preschool just to have an hour to myself once in a while.
And then people would have shamed you over that.
Yes.
It's just you can't win, so why bother?
Right.
That's funny, though. I don't know.
How about you, Terry?
Well, my kids are always telling me that I work too much. Now that they're adults, they tell me that I work too much. And if they get a little too pushy with it, I explain to them all the things that the money I earn by working too much gets for them that they don't have to pay for. And then they stopped for a little while.
Oh, okay.
But I don't think I've ever been shamed for the work, for working. For most of my kids' lives, my work schedule was super flexible so that I could like volunteer at the school and pick kids up from school and do all the things that the stay-at-home moms did largely, but also make money for my family. And work has always been really important for me because it's something that I feel I do well and I'm competent at, which is not something you get a lot from parenting. So it was always nice to have that part of my life where I knew what I was doing.
Right.
So, and I think maybe the fact that I was always around, especially once I started freelancing. But even when I was working in offices, I still had schedules set up so that I could do these other things. So I think I was pretty lucky in that. I never was shamed for it, or I just ignored it. Probably I was too busy and just didn't want it. I had enough to deal with. Thank you.
Right.
Your shame over there. Maybe I'll get to it in a few years. But no, I think people would largely have liked me to be around less. So sure, you don't want to work a little harder, lady? We're happy to hear if you're in the library here 5 days a week, but doesn't your job need you? Maybe you could get a second job.
That's funny.
So it's worked out really well, especially with the freelance work. But, I'm always home and around to do things for them. But also they see that I work ridiculous hours and I stay up late and all that. So the only ones shaming me at the moment are my kids. And I do not accept that shame from them. Here,
there you go.
Take it back. Return to sender.
Right.
You of all people don't get to do that.
Yeah.
Wow.
Shall we make a list? So, how about you, Nicole? You sounded like you felt that had been part of your experience.
Yeah, actually, several occasions, which is why this article kind of popped out at me, because I started actually getting shamed for wanting to work before I had kids.
Wow.
So there was a very prominent member in my family, or my husband's family, I'm not going to say which one, in the extended family that was very against the idea that I would be working and having children at the same time. So that was the message that was sent very early on. Now, I wasn't raised that way. When I say early on, this would have been as, a newly married person. Yeah. And because when I was growing up, I was not, careers was encouraged, university was encouraged, family was encouraged. Like that was not, you
can do it all.
Yeah, exactly. You can have it all. So anyway, so I started feeling that very early on as a young adult, and then had kids. And when I had my kids, I worked in a bedroom community of the city. And you either commuted into the city for work or you were a stay-at-home mom. And there was this great divide in the mothers in my community about, did you work, did you commute, or were you able to stay at home? And a lot of women in my circle were stay-at-home moms, or they worked locally, which was rare, and I was so jealous of them. But I was one of those commuters, and it was just, I got a lot of just comments, like, can't you find something closer? Can't you try and stay home? Maybe you should quit and start selling Arbonne. No hate to Arbonne sellers, but, do multi-level marketing so you can stay home. So I'm like, okay, I went to 5 years of university to stop. And sell makeup. I don't think so.
So you could have been in the lucrative world of freelance writing like me and Catherine.
I could have, but just, I hadn't realized my copious amounts of talent for writing at the time. I'm just being sarcastic. Okay.
You are a published author, Nicole.
Hey, I had an amazing editor. Okay. Let's just say that. The poor girl, she made her money.
You could have totally written an about.com site on education.
Mm-hmm.
Little did I know at the time.
The books would have rolled in.
Probably more than what I was paying, getting paid for my job, paying for gas, commuting, wear and tear on my car, paying for daycare, because daycare was no joke. I finally got to a point where I could do it part-time, where I could work part-time. And then there was that was kind of like a nice balance. And then stay at home for part-time as well. So I got down to half-time, which was a nice balance, but still, I felt like, and the community too, they were shaming mothers or working parents, because all of their extracurricular, like the community soccer and the community baseball, all that stuff would start at like 4:00 in the afternoon.
Yeah.
Like who was home from work at 4:00 in the afternoon?
Hard.
And when you're commuting, you're not home till 6:30 or 7. Yeah. So it's like, are you kidding me? So then that totally took out a whole bunch of, opportunities for my kids, because I wasn't home to be able to do that.
Yeah.
So I was being shamed in every way I turned.
Yeah. That stinks.
Yeah, it was pretty bad, actually.
Yeah. When my kids are still pretty little, I was working. I had a job that I was in New York City like 2 days a week, and then I worked at home 3 days a week. And we had somebody who came and was home when my son got dropped off by the bus. And I felt a little bad about that, but it was okay. But then as they got older, and I was getting home so late at night, and it was just not possible to do so many things that I needed to do. So I wound up quitting that job and getting a job, very, very close to our house and to my kids' school, which was a huge pay cut and professionally not the right direction to be going. But on the other hand, it made it so much easier to do everything.
Yeah.
Right.
So I feel good about that decision, because it was just, if you have a job that's any distance away, if you have any sort of commute, it's just impossible. And if you have a job, as anything in publishing is going to be, where you often have to stay late,
right?
Unsustainable.
Yeah, exactly. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I remember, when my kids were little, so I was, working from home, and for the first, 4 years or so that I worked remotely, this was long before everyone did, and Zoom was a thing, and, we all found out what it was like to work from home. I worked from home starting in 2004. And so at that time, I definitely got a lot of oh, that's so nice that you work from home. And basically assuming that I didn't do anything, that I wasn't working. And, why do your kids go to daycare? Because I actually have a job, and I have to, do it during business hours.
Right.
So, there was a lot of, it wasn't exactly shame. It was just kind of ignorance. I don't want to say not in a malevolent way, but just people didn't get it at all.
But you always feel like they're probably kind of shaming you behind your back at some point.
Yes.
Those mothers who do these things, I just don't know.
And you're very much caught between all the different worlds, you're not a full-time stay-at-home mom. You're not a full, work outside the home mom. You're both and neither. So that's confusing to people. Yes. Let's just say. But I didn't ever get it from my family or my husband or anything like that. So, right. I mean, my mom always worked when I was growing up, and that wasn't common.
Yeah.
So she definitely wasn't going to be shaming me.
Yeah.
And my mother-in-law, she also worked because she was a single mom. She was a widow, so she certainly had to work. But she never, had anything bad to say. She was always very, very supportive. If she would have lived closer, she would have loved to be the child care provider.
Yeah.
She would have been all over that.
Yeah. My husband was pretty fantastically accommodating to me because his hours were like 6 a.m. to, what would that be? 3 or 4.
Mm-hmm.
So, and he worked really close to home. So he came home for lunches. So he was available to child handle at any time when I needed him to.
Mm-hmm.
He used to pick the kids up from school. He had this one teacher, my daughter's teacher, who he thought doesn't like men and was always giving them evil eyes. He's standing there in the pickup line, the only guy. But that was really helpful too. And he never, he's perfectly ready to support anything I wanted to do, which is helpful. I think that's the worst part when somebody in your media, when somebody that you need to be backing you up is the one that's shaming.
Yeah.
So,
because there's plenty of it, there's plenty of self-imposed guilt and shame. So,
but
when it comes from outside as well, that's not helpful.
Turns out though that, money is handy.
Yeah.
Nice to have these bills and you can pay them. It's awesome.
Yep.
No shame in that.
No. It's also just about sanity. Like you said, Terry, like having something that you're good at.
Yes. So important.
Is huge.
Yeah.
And having some substantive thing that you're doing that is just yours.
Right.
Is significant.
Definitely.
Well, podcasting is significant.
Yes.
And also time consuming. We spend a lot of time on it. Even when we're all sick, as we are right now, which you can hear in my voice. We cannot give each other germs over the phone. So here we are. That's going to be it, though, for today's round 1. Tune in tomorrow for our entertainment-themed round 2, and later in the week to find out what we're complaining about, obsessing about, and recommending right now. We're always interested in what you have to say, so drop us a comment on our website, our Facebook page, or Twitter, where you'll find us at Roundabout Chat.